This episode is proudly brought to you by California Cryobank. Use code LOVEISLOVE for a free level 2 subscription to their donor catalog.
Love is love on the Queer Family Podcast. Love is love.
There were just some incidents that happened where like somebody left me a note in my car when I was an adult because I was sitting in a restaurant looking not feminine. And they said, the note said 1-800 kill yourself, fucking dyke bitch, just some really, really vitriol. Yeah, it was scary actually. And I was glad it was the middle of the day and I wasn't in an alley with these people. And it was left by these college age kids, boys, all boys. And I don't know if they were really in college or not, but they looked, college age. Yeah. And all I was doing was literally sitting there. I never even made accidental eye contact with them because I was trying hard not to because they were being obnoxious.
Welcome to the Queer Family Podcast, the show all about family, but with gay. My name is Jaimie. I am your gay host. And you, my friends, are tuning into the show that celebrates, uplifts, highlights, and normalizes LGBTQIA plus families in all of our beautiful identities. And y'all, we are actually going to focus on just that today, identity. Namely, we're talking about gender identity. I got to sit down and talk with Kelly. Kelly is the author of a series of books called Uglier, and the newest one that is just coming out, Ugliest. It's a young adult novel about a teen finding their gender identity. And we talked about why Kelly wrote the book and who Kelly hopes will read the book and the importance of books like these. And it's a really beautiful conversation. I can't wait for you to hear it. And yes, it's true. We are really focusing on identity in this episode and not queer family building, which we usually focus on. And I think that is actually a really good thing to do given the times we're living in right now. Because I've been thinking a lot about why do we as a society try to fit everyone into this binary framework of gender? And I'm talking about society as a whole. I know all of us listening here are all in the community and allies, and we all know and we all care about this. But why? Why do we have these binary boxes that have been built up around us, so to speak? And instead of, as a society, lifting up our gender queer, our non-binary, our gender non-conforming, our trans, et cetera, family, why is this still happening now, today? And, with the Olympics that just happened and the scrutiny and hatred that the boxer Imane Khalif experienced, I have been really realizing, honestly, how patriarchal these binary boxes are. We literally live in a world where feminine equals bad and masculine equals good. Unless of course, you're a female athlete who excels too much and shows too much masculinity, then, you're too masculine. We have to suppress your masculinity in the name of protecting girls, of course, because we have to protect that femininity. And when we have these rigid binary rules, we end up policing femininity and masculinity because, of course, God forbid, a boy exhibits traits considered feminine. Oh, no, we need to toughen them up. So I've been wondering a lot about that and how can I help to break the binary? Obviously, we need to read books like Kelly's. We need to listen to stories like Imane's. Then we need to share them with our communities, right? We need books like Kelly's in school libraries for our kids and for the kids who are secretly struggling with their identities and for the kids who aren't struggling so that they can gain insight and compassion and for all of us to gain a sense of normalization surrounding challenging these harmful norms. Why are we still living in this weird norm? I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm getting so poetic here. Usually I'm light and funny, and I'm sorry, guys, but I've been thinking a lot about the binary and the gender norms, and they need to break. I'm done. What would our world look like if our society treasured things that are out of the binary over masculinity. Oh my goodness, what would the world look like? What if our genderqueer, our gender nonconforming, our non-binary, our trans, et cetera, family were actually revered instead of villainized? Oh, crazy idea. What would our world look like then? I personally think it would look a lot better. And so this is my part in changing the norm. Like, I want to change the norm for all of us, whether you're a L, a G, a B, a T, a Q, an I, an A, a plus, a straight or non-queer. Yeah, I got to include the non-queers too, especially the strong allies. All of us, though, literally all of us, feminine and masculine as equal. Could you imagine? And then we can have mixtures of the two. What a crazy idea. Anyway, my point is, let's normalize this shit and lift it up. That was my long way of saying that. And I have been thinking a lot about this. And the way it's been going isn't working. So it's time to change it. And so Kelly, go read Kelly's book. That's my endorsement. I just downloaded it on my Kindle and I'm going to read it on my train ride in an hour. So I'll let y'all know. But I'm sure it's amazing. And you're going to love the interview that I did with Kelly coming up. But before I roll the tape, I got an email from a listener and I didn't have an answer. So I'm posing the question to all of y'all. Rebecca listened to last week's episode with Damien about how he was a sperm donor and he also was an embryo donor and also he created his family through surrogacy and all the things. And Rebecca was asking if I knew of a place where folks could donate eggs to other queer families. Like maybe there's a website where queers can share embryos, eggs, sperm, etc., without compensation to help lessen the financial burden of making kids. This is what Rebecca wrote. She also writes, I know there are religious agencies who allow for donation only to heterosexual couples, which is such bull crap. And Rebecca's wondering if there's something similar for the queer community. And I couldn't think of something off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's something out there. So I'm posing the question to all of you. Please let me know. Write me at thequeerfamilypodcast@gmail.com or reach out on social, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn too, if you want to, at the Queer Family Podcast. Reach out and let me know so I could tell Rebecca and also tell the rest of the community here, because there should be something like that. And if it doesn't exist, somebody needs to create it. I'm too busy. I'm too tapped out, but there's an idea for y'all. Anywho, all right. I hope y'all enjoy this very wonderful episode with Kelly. I hope y'all go read that book and then go read more books like that. And then also hear all the stories of folks in the LGBTQIA++ community and share them far and wide, please. Thank you so much. And I will do my part as well. Okay, I love y'all. Thanks for tuning in week after week. Don't forget to have Patreon at the Queer Family Podcast, where you're going to get video episodes dropped a day early and some behind the scenes shenanigans of me trying to record an intro and flubbing it up and my poor editor trying to edit all the problems out. Sorry, Jerson. Love ya. Anyway, I'm going to roll this tape. I have waxed poetical enough. I'm getting off my soapbox. Let's listen to Kelly and let's all get that book. All right, Helen, Beulah, I know it's time. Nicole, let's roll that tape. Let's roll that tape, folks. Here we go.
Queer Family Podcast. Love is love.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
It is nice to have you on the Queer Family Podcast, highlighting all the wonderful things. I would love to invite you to give us your 30-second elevator pitch of who you are and why you are here talking to the listeners of the Queer Family Podcast. On your mark, get set, go.
So I'm Kelly Vincent. I grew up in Oklahoma with a lot of gender confusion, but I sort of just pushed that to the side, thinking that was just me being weird. And I started writing YA contemporary, and I care about issues, so I write a lot about social issues. But eventually I wanted to tell my own story. I felt like it was something I hadn't seen in the YA canon that's out there. So I wrote Uglier, which is largely autobiographical story about me and my gender confusion, imagining myself if I were a teenager today. And that's basically what the series is. It progresses from my character is in a small town, moves to a bigger area, and sort of goes through a lot of self-discovery. And it was actually something that I kind of went through as well because of how I was writing it as imagining it being myself. So that's why I'm here, because I am agender and so is my character. So
Boom. You did go a little over, Kelly, but I won't hold you to it. That's okay. I'm excited to dig in here. And I want to hear all about this. And I want to hear about kind of your childhood. And now we are deviating, diverging from the norm right now because Kelly, you don't have any children and we're not going to talk about making children at any time right now, but we are going to talk about your experience as a queer person growing up in a world that maybe didn't always recognize you or accept you. And I think this is also really, really important, especially given today's very scary political climate that we are dealing with. So let's dig into kind of your journey of discovery of yourself, if we could.
As a kid, I never felt like a girl. And I was punished a lot, just societally, bullied and some other things for not performing girl the way people wanted me to. But I was like deeply, deeply uncomfortable with it. So I did try wearing a skirt at one point in, I think, 7th grade. And it didn't go well because I hadn't taken the tag off. So I was walking around with the tag on the back of the sweater that went with the skirt. And I was just humiliated. And I got made fun of course. I just felt like I was failing at being a human because it seemed so easy for other people to be comfortable in who they were. And I didn't feel like I was who I was supposed to be. But I also was just so uncomfortable trying to be feminine on those few times I did try that I just couldn't do it. There was a incident where some people convinced me to do a makeover, and it was really actually rather traumatizing. And it's hard to explain why. I was just this is not me. And I've always felt the need to be who I really am, to be authentic. And I'm uncomfortable if I'm not doing that. It's not so much like, I should be better than everyone. It's just a discomfort. And I also think that I'm on the spectrum. And so that influenced a lot of the way I interpreted things and didn't understand things. And I even knew when I was young that if I would just conform, that people would mostly accept it and it would be okay and they would leave me alone, but I just couldn't do it.
Right.
So, then I grew into an adult and I felt pretty much the same. But as I got older, I just sort of gave in, and I still don't wear makeup, and I never have and never will. But I would dress in more, not super feminine, but, obviously women's shirts at work and things. I never felt comfortable. And so when I started thinking I wanted to write Ugly, I really dove in, and my character researches it on Google. And so I actually went through, I'm like, what would I be doing if I were a teenager now? This is what I would do. I would go to Google, I would search these things. And it just sort of came out that there were ways I wasn't alone in this experience. And that was kind of, in a lot of ways, it was kind of the first time that was really clear, which seems crazy because I was in my 40s, but I just grew up without those ideas.
And without the representation.
Yeah. And I know that there's a group here that meets, like a trans peer group that has been meeting since the 50s. So those ideas were out there. They just weren't visible to me.
I just want to backtrack a little bit because growing up in Oklahoma, feeling very different, not feeling comfortable. I don't want to say in your skin, but just feeling uncomfortable with the roles that were placed on you as a child. What was your family's reaction to it? Can we talk about that first? And what was it like in Oklahoma? I want to paint the picture of what it could have been like back then. And then have we come anywhere really?
Yeah, we have actually. So I grew up in Tulsa, which is one of the 2 major cities in Oklahoma. And my family was reasonably supportive. I mean, my mom was, frequently trying to get me to kind of veer into femininity a little bit with kind of the clothes she would buy me. And what would usually happen is I would just give in and she would be trying to convince me to get this thing. And I would just be like, fine, whatever. But normally I didn't go for that. I'm not trying to paint her as bad, but I mean, she knew that if I would conform more, things with my life would be easier.
Yeah.
And so she was sort of I think that was her mindset. Just do this a little bit. Otherwise nobody in my family cared that I was weird. And, they were super supportive of just me and my ability to succeed in school or anything else. So that was sort of like a safe haven, was the home. So school was an unpleasant place. The problem in Oklahoma, and this is still true, is that the gender roles are so clear and well drawn, and not conforming to them is punishable. And that doesn't mean, I mean, I'm sure for boys it probably means getting beat up. For me, it wasn't, because I was also really tall and just kind of giant, and which I regret not using a little more when I was young, but I didn't. I mean, there were just some incidents that happened where like somebody left me a note in my car when I was an adult, because I was sitting in a restaurant looking not feminine. And they said, the note said 1-800 kill yourself, fucking dyke bitch, just some really, really vitriol. Yeah, it was scary actually. And I was glad it was the middle of the day and I wasn't in an alley with these people. And it was left by these college age kids, boys, all boys. And I don't know what, if they were really in college or not, but they looked, college age.
Yeah.
And all I was doing was literally sitting there. I never even made accidental eye contact with them because I was trying hard not to, because they were being obnoxious. And, I had other things like that. And it was just, nobody let me forget that I wasn't doing things right. And I have felt more comfortable in other places. So I do think this is kind of unique to a lot of red states. And I would go out to eat a lot on my own, which is also very weird in smaller places, which I didn't really know. But like when I moved to Durham, North Carolina, it wasn't as big a deal. Like, it's weird. Apparently that is a thing. People going out to eat by themselves is freakish.
I love eating out by myself. It's one of my favorite things. Like, I'll bring a book and this is one of my favorite things. And I do notice sometimes people looking at me like, oh, she must be so lonely. I'm not at all.
You just wanted food and you got your book with you. What's wrong with that?
It's like perfect combination. And I don't have to make the food myself. So I can just read my book.
I actually went home last October and I spent a lot of time at a bagel shop. And this was in South Tulsa. And nobody even looked at me twice. It used to be normal if I would sit in a restaurant, I would get a lot of looks. So I think that it's gotten much better in the cities in terms of how most people just don't care. Like, they're not as intent on punishing, I don't think, anymore. And I mean, a lot of people were nice to me while I was there. It wasn't like the same. I would just be on guard if I was in public when I was younger in Oklahoma. And that just doesn't seem to be as necessary today in the cities. But I am pretty sure that once you get outside the cities, it is like it was, or a lot more like it was when I was younger. And that's actually why I set Ugly in a small town outside of Tulsa for that reason.
I want to hear more about it. But I also want to say, I live in New York City and I live my kids go to school in Chelsea, which is headquarters for the modern day civil rights gay movement. Right. And I will say, I have been shocked myself at how gendered all these things are just for my kid. Like, these children are already so gender conscious. And I'm especially noticing it with the boys, even more so. I had a little boy with long hair and he was getting bullied. He was getting made fun of. And he was being told he had to go play with the girls because he doesn't belong. And he also happens to be a tiny boy. You know what? So this gender shit, which is all just a crazy construct anyway, is really, really ingrained in society, even in the liberal parts of society. And I'm only seeing it more so now because I have a little boy. And it is totally like, he's like, I'm a boy, I'm a boy, I'm a boy. He feels like a boy, but he's getting the brunt of being othered a little bit, which is really interesting because he's not even other. Except for the fact that he has two moms, but So it is interesting. And I think that the world needs to really take a deep dive into gender and what we've put on people in general. It's infuriating to me. So anyway, I just want to add that. So
I feel really strongly that we gender way too many things. Like, as far as pronouns go, do I need the grocery store cashier to know that I use they, them pronouns? No. Let's just leave gender out of the whole thing. Let's not call each other sir or ma'am. Let's just, we can be nice without those terms.
It's a thing though, because it's polite to them. So they think they're being polite. I get it. Yeah.
It's well-intentioned, but it's annoying. Not when an individual does it because they're just doing what they're doing, but that is the norm in society is what is annoying.
I do love it when a waiter will call me hun. I'll take hun. You know what I mean? Like, what do you want, hun? I feel respected. I feel like you like me. Like, we're like simpatico here. Let's go.
We can also just go with dude. Dude works.
But isn't that slightly gendered too?
That is true. And actually, there's a whole thing in my book about the kids trying to not use the term guys to refer to. And
I try to do
get
that now, and I mess up all the time.
For me personally, it doesn't bother me, but like it should bother me. And I'm like, why doesn't I wish it would? Because like I want to start using it as well. But like everything is gendered.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't even really have like gendered English language when you think about it,
Not like other languages. Yeah, definitely.
Where it's really gendered. But it's just this construct is just so ingrained in just the weaving of the air we breathe that there really needs to be a huge deconstruction, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So this is why I just am really excited, honestly, to talk to you and to hear what you're doing to help young kids who might be struggling, as you were, with their identity and how they show up in the world. And I think there are a lot more children out there than we even realize. I
think so too. I think it's a lot more common. And to me, it's just for a lot of people, it's just not safe to take it all the way to using they, them pronouns or telling people that you're agender or non-binary. But I have personally learned that the most benefit for me has come from the actual realization that I am agender, and that's why I felt that way my whole life. So I feel like just that recognition, even if you're not safe in a safe place to really truly come out, I think that can make a difference, even a significant difference.
Just knowing in your heart.
Yes. Right. And then because it explains things. It explains why you had these feelings, and it sort of like lets you off the hook for being the freak. You're not a freak. You just don't match maybe your body the way it appears to other people, especially.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you differentiate between agender and gender nonconforming, and what are the differences? Because actually, I don't even know, and I think I thought I knew all the terms, but
I personally think that there aren't true standard definitions. I think it's kind of so in Ugly, my character does decide that they are gender nonconforming, but they're still using she, her pronouns at the end of the book. But they also have a thing that I felt, which is gender nonconforming sounds like a choice. You're choosing to not conform. And I didn't think that the way I felt matched that. It wasn't really a choice. It was more how I felt inside. But going so far as to say you're agender is a real commitment to being really different. And so in the second book, Uglier, my character does come out as agender, but it's not a shock. I mean, like, it's not like a spoiler because it's like pretty obvious that that's how they feel. Recognizing that is really kind of cathartic. And so I think that there is a difference between gender nonconforming and, say, agender. But I think a lot of people, it's like a stepping stone. It's like easier to go this way first. But as far as where it all fits in with like non-binary has it's a very big umbrella term. And like, for instance, like people who kind of go between feeling a little more feminine and a little more masculine in a given day or a given week. I mean, that's not how I feel. I don't ever feel masculine.
Right.
I probably have more comfort with feminine things just because I was socialized that way. So a lot of the, not wanting to make a fuss or other sort of things that are typical of women, I do have a lot of those, but I still don't feel feminine. I just like, it's more familiar, some of those outlooks.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I just think agender means really you just never feel masculine or feminine. But I also sometimes use the term genderqueer. A lot of the terminology is confusing. It took me a while to pick the one that felt the most right for me. And also these are changing. I mean, it's one of the reasons I actually pushed the books out without trying too hard to get an agent, because it's time sensitive. The way Nick is experiencing things is how it is now. In 5 years, it might be different. We don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I have a nephew, chosen family, best friends, my nephew, who came out to us as non-binary a couple years ago. And then since then, now we've changed to he, him pronouns. And he is just on this journey right now, and I think that everybody should have the chance to find whatever
Yeah.
it is and just know, like, and also it's not up to us to say, okay, well, that's what you are now. But no, no,
Right.
no, no. It's a journey. You got to find yourself just like anybody would have to find themselves.
You don't always get it right the first time, but also sometimes you change. Like,
Mhm.
it's not wrong if you are non-binary for years and then you start feeling like a man.
Right.
Why is that bad? I mean, I know it seems weird to people who don't feel this way. It just seems like, how can you possibly not feel like the gender that you're born in, or the matching genitalia and whatnot? I mean, but it's just like, if you don't, then you don't. And
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't see anything wrong with it changing. And I mean, you hear a lot about that, people who regret something
Oh,
like some kind of treatment because later they transition back. Well, that's because later they felt different.
right. Right. Let's just go there.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about all the ones who didn't
Yeah.
go back or who
Exactly,
changed
which
it
is
in a
most.
different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing that really is constant in life, the only true thing is change.
Exactly.
That's the one thing we can rely on. Things are going to change.
Yeah.
That's the nature of life.
Yeah.
So I just feel like there needs to be so much more education for me too. I'm learning. I have a lot to learn. There needs to be so much more representation so that these idiotic, ignorant arguments against the LGBTQIA community in any way
Yeah.
can but just be debunked but there's not enough representation, so we don't get to plead our cases enough.
I personally think one of the best ways to learn about people who are different from you is reading fiction.
Mm.
I really believe this, and because it lets you see the reasons why and the reactions that people have to things that you might not have realized they would react that way, or that doesn't seem obvious to you. But when you see it in a book, if it's well written, then you understand it. You understand, okay, this, even if that's not how I would have interpreted that, that's how that person interpreted that exchange. And so I think it's really powerful for that. And I've had trouble reaching teenagers with the series, but I've had a lot of good feedback from adults who are like, I feel like I understand something I didn't understand before. And so, like, there is so much power in learning about things that way. And I think it can be even more powerful than learning it through nonfiction. But I mean, obviously personal stories can be really powerful. Like,
Of course.
but I just think that the advantage of fiction is that it's like, if it's a whole novel, that's a lot of information. You're getting a lot of just little tidbits here and there, and you're in that person's head to at least a degree. So I don't know. I feel that that's true for, like, understanding all sorts of things, not just LGBTQ issues.
We'll be right back.
Queer Family Podcast.
Okay, folks, I'd be remiss if I didn't take just a second during this episode to talk about queer family building a little bit. And what I want to really focus on is California Cryobank, my sponsor, and how they have proudly been helping LGBTQIA plus families fulfill their dreams of parenthood for more than 45 years, y'all, including yours truly, right here, me. Yeah, both my kids, Cali Cryobank. There we go. In addition to offering one of the largest and most diverse donor catalogs to choose from, they also provide, here we go, free vial transfer for partners. Love that. A personalized letter if needed for second parent adoptions. Love that. Thank you very much. It's very important, that second parent adoption, in case you didn't know. Free vial storage offers with their Family Today and Family Tomorrow programs. Also important stuff. And access to their private sibling donor registry, which I'm on, and I hope many of you are on, and also so much more. So you can actually start your donor search today, right now, right this second. You just have to go to cryobank.com. Use promo code LOVEISLOVE, and you're going to get a free level 2 subscription, y'all, to their donor catalog. And you can even apply that discount to a level 3 subscription. So use the code, find what works for you, and let's go shopping. Let's make some babies. Okay, love that. Love that for you. Love that for me. Let's get back to Kelly. Thanks so much.
Love is love.
And so your books, what age are they tailored towards? And I agree with you. Adults should read it too, especially those. I've had a lot of adults recently come to me asking, can you help me with this trans thing? Because they were trying to ban trans girls from sports recently in NYC. Like it's a lot. The listeners know all about it. I have talked way too much about it, and I've had a lot of these parents who I'm friends with, who I thought we were like strong allies here. Like I thought you were like right here with us, the community, realizing a rude awakening. Oh, okay, you're not. And you are really ignorant on a lot of these things. And so they're coming to me. Can we sit down for coffee? Can you explain? I don't want to. I'm done. Go do your own freaking research. You know what I mean? So to your point, I think this is a really, I'm gonna offer this resource. I'm gonna be like, here, read this book. And then, when you feel like your kid's old enough, you can let your kid read it too.
Yeah. So in the first book, Nick is in 10th grade. It lasts most of the whole year. In the second book, it's first semester of junior year, and the third book is second semester junior year. So we're talking 15 to 17 is how old Nick is. So it is, there's no, sex or anything in there. There's very little romance at all, and a lot of it is painful. But so, I mean, younger kids could read it. I would say probably people who might be able to relate would probably be 14 plus.
Yeah.
But I mean, there would also be no harm in someone younger reading it if it was something that would interest them. It's up to kids to decide what they're interested in.
Especially if it's a child who's grappling with identity. And to be clear, this has nothing to do with sex.
No, not at all.
None of this has to do with sex. We're not talking about genitals.
Right.
We're just talking about identity. And that's, a huge point that I think gets lost in the shuffle of this debate.
And actually, in Ugly, one of the things that confuses Nick so much, because they're frequently called a lesbian, but they have ever been attracted to boys. And it's confusing because that's not like what, they thought, well, maybe I am a lesbian because I am so different, but that's not the difference. The difference is something completely different. And Nick didn't really know that. That's how Nick is throughout the whole thing. Only ever interested in boys, although that's not a big important thing in the last story.
No, but that is an interesting thing because that would confuse a lot of folks who know nothing about the community, the queer community. And even a lot of folks who do know a lot about the community.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, like, I don't know. I'm pretty understanding of people who are still trying to learn. As long as you're making an effort, then you're doing the right thing, even if you're not perfect all the time. So
right, it's true. And also just keep in the back of your head all the time, gender identity is very different from sexual identity.
Yes. Yeah.
They don't necessarily even go together. So get your heads out of all of the people's pants, because please, like, stop thinking about that. Like, you're disgusting. It's you who's disgusting, thinking about what is in people's underwear. Like, why are we going there? Right? Yeah. Anyway, I am angry. So you have a lot more patience, but I am actually very angry right now, just with the state of the world.
I'm very angry too. And it comes out in the writing, I think. The third book is just unabashedly political. There's no way to not be political when you're talking about these issues here.
And did that come because when you were writing it, things were starting to heat up more so? Or
I think so. I think I have kind of long stayed away from politics, not because I don't think it matters, but because it causes me stress and unhappiness. And I have, struggled with mental health a lot through my life. And so it's kind of been something I've kind of avoided, but like, you can't. I mean, now we have to talk about this because we're in an emergency right now.
Yeah.
And we have to talk about it. So then I thought if I write this book, that's kind of can be my contribution to the dialogue. But writing it, I would get all angry and that comes across in some of the book. I mean, the kids are angry about this stuff and they're sharing their opinions. And I mean, sometimes I think they have maybe slightly sophisticated opinions because they're my adult opinions. But I still think it works fine. I mean, kids are a lot more sophisticated than we give them credit for a lot of the times, especially when they're looking at real world issues. I sometimes wondered if people would think that when they were reading it, if they're like, there's no way these kids would know that or think this. And nobody gave me that feedback. So I think I'm good.
How have the books been received? How's it going? And are they banned anywhere?
Not so far. They're not
Not
big
yet.
enough. I mean, this is the problem with self-publishing. It's virtually
Mhm.
impossible to get your books in front of people. So I frequently pay for industry reviews, and Ugly actually won SCBWI, the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, is an international organization, and they have a prize for self-published books called the Spark Award. And Ugly was a runner-up for that one year.
Okay.
And that was actually what
Congrats.
gave me the confidence to come out, to be honest, because
Hmm.
I felt like, okay, even though I had been rejected from some agents because they didn't think it was authentic because I wasn't identifying as non-binary, so therefore the story couldn't be authentic, when it was actually like almost autobiography. So I'm like, trust me, it's authentic. I'm just not a 15-year-old right now. So anyways, and then Uglier got a starred review from Kirkus Reviews, which is a major industry, review site / magazine. More recently, I submitted it to Book Life, which is a part of Publishers Weekly. I think it's for self-published books, and both Ugly and Ugliest were editors picks on that. I've had some good results from industry professionals on all three books. None of them have gotten like a bad review, which does sometimes happen. Sometimes people just don't like it, but they've all been good, with a couple times a little critique, but mostly good.
That's great. And it is hard to get our books out there, especially if they're self-published, but also just in this niche LGBTQIA plus community. I have a book too, and it's been tough.
It is very hard. I did not know it was going to be this hard, to be honest. I knew it was going to be hard, but I don't know. I thought if you write good books, if they get good reviews, if they get good ratings, that you would sell books, and that's just not.
Takes so much more, especially when you're considered, I'm unquoting, niche.
Yeah,
The
I
amount of
definitely.
times I've heard niche in my career is just infuriating.
It's like people think that straight or cis people couldn't possibly want to read books about
I know.
other people, and I'm like, that is just not true. I've always been a fan of reading about people who are different from me. It's fascinating.
Mhm.
And I mean, I learn from it, but it's also just really interesting. And I'm not the only one. Lots of people
Yeah.
like to read different stuff. But there are also readers who want to read the same exact thing over and over. So just readers are varied, just like people are varied.
Yeah, but you've created a valuable resource at this point for all folks, for folks who are trying to figure out who they are, and then also for folks who are trying to understand what this is because they don't experience it themselves. So this is a wonderful resource. I'm going to tell people to read it. I'm going to get it because I'm tired of trying to explain it.
Yeah, I think it really does explain in a lot of ways that will actually help people. And each book kind of goes into slightly different areas in doing it.
Yeah, you talked in the form you filled out to come on the show. You talked about Nex Benedict, the death of Nex Benedict, and how it kind of impacted you. Did you want to speak on that a little bit?
Sure. So that was just very personal almost, which it shouldn't be. I mean, I didn't know Nex, but I was writing about kids in Oklahoma.
Mhm.
And it's exactly because of stories like his that we need these. I mean, he was treated terribly and the
Mhm.
adults were complicit.
Yeah.
And I know from experience, I was often told by adults that I should conform if I wanted to be left alone. How about just no bullying? I mean,
Yeah.
they would stand by when things would happen, and I know that was happening with Nex. And
Yeah.
and it's just unacceptable, but they don't care either. I mean, the adults in these places are the same. I mean, they were the ones who were kids before. I mean, they never really
Yeah.
outgrow the hatred of people who are different. And I mean, there have been some good teachers over the years that I had, but like just so many of them were just like, you should just conform. And I didn't.
Right. It's heartbreaking. I mean, how about we teach about, acceptance and the
Yeah.
beauty of embracing all? Like,
Yeah.
hey, I don't know. What a crazy concept.
Yeah. I mean, like, what does Nex is identifying as a boy or non-binary, whatever it is, what does that what impact does it have on you? Like literally nothing. But
It's heartbreaking.
but people just, I don't know, they just feel okay judging and lashing out at people who are different.
Mhm.
So, and I just happened to be in Oklahoma when right after that story broke. And so I was in Tulsa, which is like, I grew up 15 miles from Owasso, which is
Mhm.
where he was. So that's why I think it was just, I mean, a lot of these, there's other stories like this and they're all upsetting, but that one was just like, he almost could have been a character in my book.
Mm.
You know, he was the age that I'm writing. He's, you know, in the place that I'm writing. So yeah, it's a really sad story.
Yeah, it's definitely yeah, what you're doing is really important, and I feel like we need more of what you're doing. We need more books like Ugly and Uglier. We need more books like that. We need more of a representation across the freaking board. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's educate these people who just don't get it. And it's sad. It's heartbreaking because people are literally dying.
Yes.
Wow, well this is uplifting.
Ugliest actually is a fairly uplifting book, even though the first two are kind of tough. But Ugliest kind of presents an option for making things better. And even though there's also a lot of really heavy stuff in there because I'm dealing with all these laws. But I think that we can change things. And I think that young people can drive a lot of that because,
Yeah.
you know, young people don't find it so hard to use they, them pronouns. Like, I mean, some people do, you know, I mean, like for me, I mean, I'm 49 and when I meet somebody, I instantly determine whether they are male or female. And even though I've met several people here who I've known the entire time I've known them use they, them pronouns, I still gender them. I still
Right.
just do it. I can't.
Mhm.
And I get it right most of the time, but it's like, I don't think young people do that. Like really
Not
young
like
people, they
we
can
do. You're
accept
right.
it. And so I think they can change things if they understand that they need to do the work. But
Right.
also it takes work and maybe not everybody wants to be an activist. Maybe they want to do something else. But
also it's also just like it just also takes it being around us. That's it, you know?
that's
Like
true.
the more it's around us, the more normal it is. Let's
Yes.
normalize this. I'm definitely better at it than my mom is.
Yeah.
And my kids are definitely better at it than I am. Right. So let's normalize this.
Yeah.
It's important. So I'm going to read your book. I'm excited about this series. And my daughter is going into middle school in September. So I'm going to see if I can get your books into their school library.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, because I feel like, you know, that's eighth graders. Eighth graders. Well, I'm going to see. I might let my daughter read it too. We'll see. I gotta read it. She's 10.
I mean, 10 might be a little young, but like not in terms of appropriateness, just in terms of where their minds are at, you know, whether this is going to resonate with them.
Right.
But I mean, you know, a lot of kids who you know, identify as non-binary feel that way from a very early age, you know, or even, you know, just trans mask or trans femme people do as well. I mean, and I don't think everyone has that experience. And like, if I had known about these ideas when I was 7, I'm not sure that I would have said, oh, I think I'm not a girl, because I just didn't pay that much attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
But some people do have that experience. So
Yeah. Well, the more identities that we can show to
Yeah.
the world, then, you know, the more understanding there's going to
Yes.
be. At least that's my opinion and my
Yeah.
hope. Kelly, tell everyone where they can find your books and what they can do to support you as well.
Okay, well, the books are available at all the normal book places. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Play, Apple, Kobo, as well as some of the other stores that people sometimes use, like Smashwords and some of the others. And actually on Smashwords, if you are a Smashwords reader, they're on sale the rest of this month. So
Oh,
all the
right.
books except Ugliest are out. Ugliest comes out August 13th. And it is available for pre-order in all forms except Amazon paperback. It won't be available in Amazon paperback till that morning. And as far as supporting me, I mean, you know, sharing, if you read the books and you like them, or you know someone who might be interested in them, just share. Word of mouth is super powerful. And yeah, I mean, like posting about it on social media can help. I mean, mostly for me, it's about the books, but also if you have an interest in these topics, then just sharing information is also really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So everybody go do all the things, get the book, write the reviews, get the book in your library. You know the deal, y'all. Also, okay, because this is a queer family podcast, may I ask you, do you have any inkling or want to become a parent someday? Have you thought about that? Is that something that would be in the cards for you at all?
Not at this point. I have kind of thought about it. I'm like, before, like, is this a missed, is this something I would have wish I'd done? I think that for me, I'm just fine. I do care about kids, and I think it's important that we support them. But for me, I think writing for kids is kind of like my contribution.
Well, there's no shame in that. And that's something that should be lifted up too, because not everybody has the desire to be a parent, and that's okay too. You can find meaning in your life in many, many ways. And you'll probably be a lot more calm and relaxed for the rest of your days without them. Oh, Lord. This has been just awesome and lovely. And please, reach out if there's anything I can do to help out. And everybody go get these books, because we need to spread them far and wide and educate the masses.
Well, yeah, thank you. It's been really great to be on here. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks, Kelly.
Queer Family Podcast.
A huge thank you once again to my sponsor for this episode, California Cryobank. Use code LOVEISLOVE for a free level 2 subscription to their donor catalog. And then come tell me about it.
Love is love.
Whew. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, feel free to listen to another or watch another. I have so many episodes for your listening or viewing pleasure. Just go pick one and enjoy. There's a lot. There really is. And also, if you really do like this show, please, I know I say it all the time, but please do consider supporting the show on Patreon. You're just going to go to patreon.com/The Queer Family Podcast. You're going to pick a tier, you're going to join, and you're going to get that bonus content. And you're also going to get my love and adoration for the rest of my life. I love you all. Thanks for tuning in. Keep on tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Mwah.